My name is Marisa Hewkin. I'm here with Red Liberty Media at the Young Women's Leadership Summit with Turning Point USA. And today we have a very special guest. We're with Lauren Chen. So we're going to find out a little bit about her story, what brought her here, and what she does. So thank you for being with us, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. And just in general, I am so happy to be here. I've never been to one of TPUSA's live events, so this is really exciting.
Amazing. Well, you're in for a treat. They are obviously amazing events. Yeah, so for this event then, how did it come about that you were decided to come here? Is there a particular speaker maybe you're looking forward to speak to hearing, or?
Well, I think coming here as a woman is really cool because we see in the media, just in general, it's so often presumed that to be a woman is to be a leftist, is to be, just very progressive. And so, to speak to young women who are more conservative leaning, or even to be able to have a platform to maybe convince some women to become more conservative or liberty minded, that's really awesome. And the speakers list is amazing. I mean, Dana Lash, Ali Stecki, Candace Owens, like who wouldn't I want to meet, frankly? It's going to be really cool, and I'm going to be speaking on a panel about media, and I think that the media has had a huge role to play in kind of shaping the narrative of what it means to be a woman, and they've almost politicized an entire gender, which I think is very, very disappointing.
I agree. It's definitely mind-blowing where we're at with that whole discussion, that these things that you thought were so black and white, right, that we're literally having debates
What is a
over.
woman even? I don't know. Yeah.
It's really, really insane. So for that reason, it is so refreshing being around these conservative women, right, who know what they believe, who are embracing femininity and all of that. And with that as well, I know you're talking about like kind of the role of media going forward. And it seems to me like, people like yourself that are active on media and YouTube are playing a big role with that. So how was it that you actually got into kind of politics and discussing things, on YouTube and all of that? What brought you there?
Well, I've been interested in politics since I was a teenager. I was very edgy. I was one of those, like, I know better than you 17-year-olds. Very obnoxious, I'm sure. But I ended up studying political science when I was at university. And when I graduated, I actually was not working in politics at all because, as are most poli-sci BAs, working outside the field. So I was just working in human resources, but then on a whim almost, I felt the urge to make a YouTube video to kind of, I guess, contribute more to the public discourse I saw going on. And it's funny because the first YouTube video I ever made was about transgenders and like what is gender.
Yeah.
And it's funny because 6 years later, we are still talking about these same issues. And I remember back in the day when I made my first video, I had so many, even conservatives, saying, this is just internet nonsense, it's fringe, it's just weirdos on Tumblr. But we see how effective, unfortunately, the left is in pushing their message because now they're actual politicians. The White House is pushing gender affirmation care to children. It's like we see how quickly things have snowballed. And I'm hoping that conservatives can get in front of the messaging once because we really have not been doing so great at it lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's crazy that you were talking about that back then. And then now it's just become so commonplace in what we're discussing. And also interesting, we had a very similar journey because I also majored in political science in college, but was not involved in politics for some time. But it sounds like, it came to a point, too, where it was kind of crucial to be talking about these things as conservatives, right, to influence the movement in some way and just, have some impact. So that's amazing. And with that, so of course this, topic of gender is coming up all the time. Would you have any advice for people who are maybe getting into those conversations, which can be very unpleasant, for maybe how to kind of navigate them in an effective way, but that's kind of loving in a sense? Any tips for that?
Well, it's really hard because I find a lot of the people who subscribe to this ideology, it's a very emotional topic for them.
Yeah.
If you don't use someone's pronouns, you are denying their humanity. Like, it's not just that you disagree with the concept of gender they are pushing, you are denying their humanity. Like, so I think there's an important role to play in just trying to explain to them that, like, I see you as a person. Yeah, it's really hard to navigate those conversations because I find so often when you're talking to someone who is part of that ideology, it's an emotional topic, right? When you refuse to maybe use their pronouns, you're not just refusing to use their pronouns, you're denying their humanity, you're disrespecting them to the core, you're committing violence against them maybe through your words. So I think the first thing that's important is to try to help them understand that you still see them as a person, you still want to have a dialogue with them. It doesn't mean you can't even love them and respect them, but it's just when it comes to what what they believe gender to be, you have a difference of opinion. So, if I were to say I'm a unicorn, you need to refer to me as one, and you said no, would you be denying my existence, or would you simply be disagreeing with me being a unicorn? And it doesn't mean that you can't act like a unicorn, maybe, if that's what you want to do. And, if someone is gender non-conforming, they can go ahead and do that. But does that make them a different gender? Does that make them multiple genders? The answer is no. So, I feel like trying to remove emotion from the conversation, it's really hard sometimes, but I think it's helpful.
Yeah, that's really good advice, I think. Again, like seeing the humanity, but still just stating the facts. And that's what sometimes you just need to bring it back to. And it's backed by science, which I always find so ironic, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And on that, too, it's so wild to think of how this also impacts, like, kids are having to now deal with this and that conversation. Like, I know recently in a school, there was a kid that got kicked out for not using the proper pronouns for someone. So it's just wild. And do you have any hope, do you think, for education with everything we're seeing right now going on, or what are your thoughts on the future for that?
So I'm really of mixed opinions. On the one hand, we saw I think a really moving win in Virginia. I think that whole race was very much about the school system, what was going on in Loudoun County specifically. We also see states like Florida doing amazing work and saying, hey, if you are a teacher, you are not an activist. The students in your classroom are not your kids to indoctrinate. We just really wanted you to teach math. We see other states kind of following suit and passing similar legislation. So that's all very inspiring, and I think that's a step in the right direction. And I think just getting parents more aware of what's happening in the classroom is good. But then on the flip side of that, I don't know if you follow the account Libs of TikTok, right?
Of course.
Just the stuff that she posts on there, the fact that these teachers even got hired, that really makes me more pessimistic. So I mean, it's kind of mixed. I'm not really happy with where things are at now, but I think there is hope in the future. And I think the more we expose these kind of weirdos in the classroom, the more we talk about these issues, the more we can reclaim classrooms. And school choice as well has been making a lot of gains, especially in the post-COVID era, which is great.
Yeah, so true. And of course, we're so grateful to have people like you who are stepping up and speaking out about this stuff. So it's amazing. So where can people find all of your content?
Sure. Well, you can find my videos just by searching Lauren Chen on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute. Try to be everywhere. And then I'm at the Lauren Chen on Twitter, Instagram, Getter, and Telegram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
You too.